and welcome to the Los Angeles ACM SIGGRAPH presentation, The Future of the Metaverse 2024. Can Web3D save the metaverse? With Sean Mann of RPI, or RP1, and Liam Broza, the CTO of Infinite Reality, and our moderator and vice chair, Larry Rosenthal. I'm Joan Collins, chair of LA SIGGRAPH. We are the Los Angeles Association for Computing Machinery's special interest group on computer graphics. We are a professional chapter. Our vice chair of LA SIGGRAPH, Larry Rosenthal, is also this event, and we thank him for that. Our secretary of this, we have a lot of officers. I'm the chair, the vice chair is Larry, the secretary is Rick Hernandez, the treasurer is Dave Kurlander, our membership chair is Sharon Eisenberg, our electronic services, some of you have already met him, Leonard Daly, volunteers chair, and also our tech crew, Fran Zandanella Benjamin. Fran can also help you answer some of the questions about how to volunteer and what are the opportunities available at upcoming meetings, like the June 22nd Digital Artists Exhibit at the Barrett Gallery. We need help loading in that huge event in June. And she can also tell you that if you volunteer, you do also earn free membership or a one-year membership into the LA SIGGRAPH. So anyway, special thanks to our presenters again. And our upcoming meetings next month is 25 artists doing a retrospective computer graphics and the evolution of said computer graphics in art at the Barrett Gallery. That show runs 30 full days. I know, I don't know what we're thinking, but it goes from June 22nd to July 21. But for now, let's finish up and go straight over to Larry Rosenthal. Larry is a partner with CubeXR. Let me introduce our moderator, Mr. Larry Rosenthal. Larry?
Okay. Hi, Joan. Thanks. We'll give a second for the video to catch up. Thank you, Joan, and thank you all for attending tonight. This is one of our continuing series about the future of the metaverse. And we're into 2024. And tonight we are going to be looking at can Web3D or WebXR, since Web3D I've heard is now trademarked, save the metaverse finally. Just so you all understand, obviously, we've gone through 30 years of visions of the metaverse. And we have two speakers tonight who have been long-term players in it as well. And it'll be and we're going to take a look at the platforms that they're creating, and they're all Web3D and WebXR based. And I have a feeling there'll be a lot of agreement from this panel on the attempt to save but to create the metaverse, since I think we'd all agree that it's had starts and stops over the last 30 years. So quickly, as Joe mentioned, the speakers, give me 1 second here, are Liam Broza of Infinite Reality, CTO, and Sean Mann of RPO, CEO and founder. I think they've just shown up as some faces here. Again, both of them are working on platforms I think we'll find pretty exciting. They've got two great presentations that they'll both give. Liam will go first, then Sean. And they'll take us basically through the first hour of this presentation from 7 to 9. And then after the two presentations, we'll basically go into a roundtable where I'll come back as moderator and ask some probing questions and see what kind of responses we can get, and again, discuss a lot of what's been going on in the world of the internet and 3D and AI over the years. Then by the end of the night at 9 o'clock, you'll see the URL going up in the corner through Fran. Basically, we have it's actually the last night or last week that it's up there through Mozilla. which has been sponsoring it for about a year or two, Hub's VR space, the VR campus. And who's ever interested could pop into there through the URL. We can all grab avatars. It's a similar space to the one behind me visually. And we could just all talk more and just kind of, do the, meet and greet that usually happens in the hallways at conferences after, people have spoken up on panels. So without further ado, I'll introduce Liam Broza, and he'll get into his presentation. So I'm going to I've known Liam for a while, quickly, about 6-7 years, I think, since I came back to California. And through his ethereal engine and different iterations, he reminded me of me a number of years ago when I was out there pushing very heavy with this stuff. So I'm just going to let Liam go right ahead and present this stuff because, as I said, both presenters know what they're talking about. So, Liam, take it away.
Awesome. Can you guys all see my screen? Is that working now?
Yes.
You're good.
Well, that's a great intro. Thank you all. I'm here to really talk about how we take XR and the metaverse from being exclusive to being universal, and really the potential of Web XR and Web GPU, which I bet you've all heard of. So what we really do at Infinite Reality is reimagine what a website could be. This is a website. This is actually a social immersive space in augmented reality. That's a real room in the background, and we're having a volumetric concert with dancers, and it's multiplayer. It's like a mix of a multiplayer AR experience and what you might expect in a Roblox. And this is easy to create experiences based on our platform, the IR engine, but it really shows broadly the potential of the social spatial web. So that's my big pizzazz. I've been working in this space for a while. Really started off, as an agency called Laguna Labs with a team of great people, and we really started Ethereal Engine after going and doing many projects on our toolbox, and we essentially liked our toolbox so much, we open source some of it, and some of it now we sell as a managed service called Infinite Reality Engine. So we merged with Infinite Reality recently to really tackle the changes of the challenges and changes in the XR industry, and to move faster and do really incredible things. What we really saw is the barriers that come with being a immersive creator. You want to build social, engaging, embodied, immersive experiences, but there's all these problems. Mainly, it's extremely hard to do. You have to go through an app store and you have to work with a game engine. And really, then you have to actually market and get somebody to download your large experience. I've built apps on Unity and Unreal in the gigabytes and tried to get people to download them on their phones. Their phones don't have free space. And they would bounce right off of them, even if I could get them into the App Store to download. They often didn't have enough space. But it works every time? A link. And that's really the problem we have today is Unity and Unreal want 10+% of your gross margin. App stores want another 20 to 30%. In Roblox case, 70%. And it makes it really hard for creators to deal with these steep revenue cuts, these limited integrations of actually getting directly to their customers and to their partners, and that they really have low ownership of their customers and the things they create. Game engines and app stores are killing us. They're trapping us in these walled gardens. The solution is the web, building open standards and open critical cores that we can all share, and really taking advantage of what's happened in the last 4 or 5 years since COVID. Really, the web browser's gone through a total re-engineering, both WebKit, which powers Safari and the PlayStation, and Chromium, which powers all the other major browsers, essentially have gone through a massive renaissance. And I'm going to tell you about that. So traditionally, if you wanted to create an amazing immersive experience, here's some that I've put out there, just kind of randomly, ones that I like. You have to get into an app store and then decide how you're going to get hardware support. And if you're a developer, you know that there's an awful level of operating system and hardware level accesses and optimizations you have to make to be able to render 3D content. And we call this the deep stack. And you usually pick, a couple app store targets and a game engine to jump you over these hoops. And if you're lucky, you can share some code across all the different devices you target, but oftentimes you're writing code bases over and over again. And this is all the game studios and immersive creators I talk to, they make these bargains, and they often fail because of all the problems I've talked about so far. But OpenXR has moved along, and Vulkan have moved along to change a lot of that deep stack and make it easier to develop on. But on top of OpenXR, there's been a magical new API, WebXR, and it's been fully embraced by the browsers, and it allows you to get all those benefits of multi-device targets with directly in the web browser, just access to 3D rendering, sensors, all right there through a link. And it's really incredible, the capabilities and performance. So really what we do at IR Engine is truly understand all the technologies that go into high performance 3D web, and all the sensors and all the compute that you can do inside of a web browser. And we have hundreds of tricks that we've essentially optimized to be able to build this magical engine that is web first. Unlike the other game engines, we are designed for the modern 3D web browser capabilities. And we can get into those. I'm sure a lot of people at SIGGRAPH know about these different stacks, but we essentially have practices in all of them. And we can actually even take web apps and make native apps through web through GPU to Vulkan, and other great things we can do. So we've been adding all sorts of magical features. Like Roblox, we have a unified character controller and like full body avatar, so we can move it. We can drive experience. If you write once, essentially your experience, you can drive it through mobile, desktop, AR, VR, even drive things through motion capture. We have world scale augmented reality with our integration with Niantic, VPS, all sorts of magical things that you would expect in a full-time web browser, a full-fledged game engine. We bring right to the web browser. Here's another amazing feat we've done, which is build ultra high quality volumetric streaming directly in the web. We have our own codec that's 10 times better than any other volumetric codec. It allows us to do this incredible video scan, volumetric video scanning and streaming directly in the web browser. This is a yoga project we did with Ubiquity VX, a healthcare company, and it just shows what's possible. We really sit in this, the web browser really sits in this most incredible opportunity where it has the lowest customer acquisition cost, the highest click-through rate, the lowest, the other way to say that is lowest drop-off or threshold resistance. And it just massively increases conversion. And that's really the problem that most companies have. Why they actually build immersive experiences to begin with is to cut through the noise, build something that activates their brand, makes commerce happen, makes brand recognition happen, and gets to customers. That's why they're building worlds in Roblox and Fortnite. But they realize that these existing walled gardens are taking their customers and making them have to access them indirectly. So the 3D web is available on almost 3 billion devices right now. And it's pretty wild. So yeah, that's the magic of IR Engine. It has multiplayer, social networking, all sorts of, it has a built-in editor, all built in, our analytics console. We service many needs, but we're really focusing on immersive e-commerce. We're building shopping worlds, really high quality graphics, all sorts of amazing rendering passes and material passes we're able to do with near native performance. We partner with all the major avatar makers, Reallusion, Avatar, Avatar, Ready Player Me. We have all sorts of networking features built in. So you can essentially make a 3D world and put it on your website directly. You just go to ir.world, you sign up with us, you can build and customize a virtual world or augmented space and bring it alive. You can reach out to Infinite Reality and we can help you author and create volumetric media. And we do our own volumetric scanning, or we can work with other partners for volumetric if you want to learn more about that. And really build these super high quality, engaging, embodied spaces. Here's a little more. We have this markerless motion capture system, allows you to create content and embody yourself live just with your through a webcam. It's really amazing. Actually, I don't know anything else like it in the as well. We're working with several shopping customers right now, building some really amazing 3D worlds. This is a demo from a little while ago. Our new version's about to come out very soon, where you'll see an incredible, like nothing else like it, virtual shopping experience that integrates directly with Shopify and WooCommerce. We have an incredible 3D editor. This is the old version. We're actually about to release a whole new version that's much even easier to use and has smart AI assistants and all sorts of great stuff right in your web browser. It's multiplayer. It's really cool. And it's really just showing what's possible on the web. We can build what we thought only possible in Unity and Unreal is actually capable in the modern web browser. WebAssembly, WebGPU, WebXR, a litany of other great technologies are really transforming what you can put on the end of a link. And we'd love to talk to you more about it. We have some cool demos to show. This is something we've been building with Wild Capture, who's one of our premier volumetric capture partners. And it's essentially how to use volumetric capture and digital cloth to build an interactive shopping experience with a level of fidelity like no other. This isn't a good alternative to virtual try-on, where people might not want to actually look at themselves, but they want to look at an aspirational model. And you can go in with your friends and actually see a personal fashion show just for you with your stylist assistant. And there'll be more to explore in this demo soon. It'll be out for everybody. This is another one that we have that we've been building with Ubiquity, which is an amazing healthcare provider, immersive experience provider. And this is actually where you can learn all the major original yoga poses in this cool underwater immersive experience. This works on mobile, desktop, Apple Vision, Quest. It's really cool. I'm really proud of it. Yeah. Yeah, here is another volumetric concert we did with Wild Capture. She's muted, so it doesn't blast your guys' ears out. But it's pretty cool. This music visualizing world. And then if you don't have volumetric capture, we've been building other content consumption spaces. These are all ones we showed at South by. And this is an actual club. You'll notice the world actually is a giant music visualizer. And responds to music. Which I think is pretty cool. And very much makes me want to dance. But I've gone in here in VR and actually had like a more VR chat-like experience, and we're going to do some live streams and clubbing and things like that in these worlds. Yeah, you can see around here. It's pretty cool. So this gives you just a little idea of what's capable. And we have several partners building stuff right now. More announcements coming soon. We'll share out we're going to be showing some of those links very soon. We've also been building all sorts of stuff. This is a multiplayer VR golf experience that we've been playing around with Sunset Division, as a kind of indie game that we've released. All sorts of experiments going on in what can be done in a 3D website. We've had classes, we're doing podcasts, all from a link. This is some of our explore pages you can check out, and you can see how fast everything loads, how we have full body IK directly in the web browser. Trying to speed the video along, just like you'd see in VR chat. All sorts of really advanced features that you would expect from an advanced game engine. Here's one of my favorites. We had one called Concert on the Ceiling, where we had a volumetric concert on your ceiling. It gives you an idea of what's possible. And if you're interested, please reach out to me. Or sign up at ir.world. There's my email. It's been really great getting to share this with you all. I wanted to kind of speed through so we had more time for questions and actually have a dialogue, which I usually find to be the most interesting. Thank you, Larry, for the opportunity. Yeah.
Thank you, Liam. All right, that's amazing. Great presentation. And for the audience, questions, save all your questions to the end. You can begin to post them into the Q&A list, and we'll basically we'll end about 15-20 minutes before 9 o'clock, and for Q&A to all two panelists and myself. So just put those questions together and put them into the Q&A. So next up is Sean Mann, CEO and founder of RP1. Again, Sean's been in this industry over 25 years and has been dealing with all kinds of interactive and digital technologies. I see Sean's heads up now. So Sean, I'm going to give it to you. I think the slides come up. Why don't you take it from here?
Perfect. Thank you so much, Larry. This is, obviously great to have a talk like this. And I want to thank everyone at LA SIGGRAPH for putting this together. It's exciting to be in front of all the pioneers of graphics over the last 30 years. And I think we've all been thinking about the idea of the metaverse, obviously going back to, when Snow Crash came out, and a lot of movies have depicted kind of the holy grail of what the expectations are in the future. And I think when we started this company just over 2 years ago, we started off as a technology company that solved a problem that we thought would be, really, really important. And the idea is that currently we all live and program in boxes, and we're limited to a very finite number of users in those boxes. And it's very difficult to connect all these different applications that are real-time and that are immersive. And the idea of getting to that big leap was, we thought, one major component was, how do you network billions of people roaming around a shared ecosystem, a shared digital universe, if you will. And as we've continued to build with that technology, the idea of a platform or an ecosystem, we started to crystallize more and more on really what the spatial internet is, and what the true idea, or how we can really better describe the idea of the metaverse. And this talk is really to help frame some of the things that we've learned recently, and are focused on it and bringing to the world. And what I mean by that is, I think it's going to take a new set of protocols and standards to really enable a spatial internet. And so what I'm going to try to share in this presentation is really the problem of the spatial internet is distinct from just a single 3D application. I think the solution is that we need a new class of metaverse browser that are required the same way that we open up a browser and can see seamlessly millions of websites. I believe there will be a new metaverse browser that allow you to instantly move from massive amount of immersive content that all coexist with each other. And the effect of that is really that software and graphics will have to be just designed and deployed radically different. And we have to rethink how we build and deploy content. And I'll get to that obviously throughout this presentation. And our role at RP1 is really to not just share the new paradigm of technology that we've created, but really how we can share open standards to help launch the first prototype for the spatial internet, and really ask the community to join us in that journey. And I think we would all benefit the same way that I think, you know, AOL and CompuServe really tried to form our vision into the internet, and eventually the open World Wide Web won. I do believe those same protocols need to exist for a spatial internet to be here and shared by all. And so I think a good way to look at this is really, you have the current infrastructure of the internet. And the internet is really the way that you have all the computers and all the hardware necessary to network and connect to immersive content. And you have the World Wide Web, which is, you know, you can be displayed through browsers, as displayed here, like, you know, Safari and Edge and Chrome and everything imaginable. And also you can go to an app store. And we all know the app store very well, where we can download and install content and then just work within that, you know, single content as a game or an experience that we would enjoy. And the spatial internet is going to require, you know, new content that allows us to really move to that next level, a different core of software that enables us to make the leap that we're all excited about. One second. So the internet needs to evolve with spatial computing. And if you think about it, we started off in print. We've moved to now, you know, digital devices like laptops and cell phones, where you're stuck to stare at a screen. And really, you know, it's funny, Alvin Grayland did a talk recently, and he mentioned the idea that it is super important that humans are not naturally adapt to working with these flat screens. We're used to working in spatiality as we walk around our planet and interact with, you know, cars and buildings and doors and everything imaginable. And really, the future are devices that are going to enable us to interact spatially to make things more natural for human beings. And I believe there's going to be, and as I think we all agree, there's going to be a big evolution into the spatial computing realm. And so I want you to look at this picture. And this picture, I want you to think, what would it take to make this possible? Now, I would easily say I wouldn't want a future like this where there's that many things that are happening. But I think it really depicts the idea of what the future is, where I can be in real life and interact with multiple applications built by different people. And if you think about it, there's an application that's telling me, you know, that I'm interacting, that tells me to keep the area clear on the street. You have stores that have a separate application that are giving me information about that store, all based on my proximity. And so it's spatially aware, it knows where I'm at, and it interacts with me. And you have the ability to continue to walk, and you'll interact with different applications. And if you really think about technically how to make this possible, you're going to have to rethink about applications, because if I had to download and install content and not have it be real time, or be interacting with other applications, this picture wouldn't be possible. And so whether if it's with 1, 2, 5 applications or many other applications, but think about it, as I move around the world, there'll be many different applications that I'm going to want to connect with, and it should be seamless. So the spatial internet is really not the same thing as a 3D application. You have to think about the spatial internet as the ability to have an unlimited number of applications that exist in a single browser. And the technology for that browser has to rethink on how you enable someone to seamlessly move from one experience to another, or share multiple services and experiences all in the same scene. And so one of the biggest problems is you also need to make sure that it can be on demand and streamed in real time. And if you really think about the App Store and applications, is that those are not necessarily in real time. You are forced to download and install and really create an account before you can actually get to that experience, versus really having a seamless experience like the web with websites, where I can instantly go to a URL and interact with that website. However, website doesn't necessarily give you the real-time aspect that immersive applications require. So I want to introduce for the first time, and this is after, you know, a very long time thinking about a single metaverse ecosystem, and then really starting to think about the problems of the spatial internet. And we came up with 3 tenets that I think they all have to work together for it to be the spatial internet. The first one is that applications need to be spatially aware. They need to be streamed on demand. They need to be, and third is unbounded by application boxes. And I'm going to get into the specifics of these. When you really think about the spatially aware, it needs to be, obviously the first tenet is 3D capable. If you look at this person, he's interacting with a 3D immersive chessboard in the real world. He has a friend that is playing that chessboard with them. That chessboard recognizes his movement and interaction with those virtual chess pieces. And you can imagine all the work that it takes for this to all seamlessly happen. And so this is an example that really shows how things need to be spatially aware, where even the chessboard knows that it's on top of a table and it can reside there and interact with the humans and also the virtual person that are across from each other. Excuse me. Tenet number 2 is that it needs to be streamed on demand, really delivered in real time. So as I'm driving, it knows my proximity. The spatial internet should know my spatial proximity and really understand the things that are around me and deliver the content in real time. So as you can see, as I'm driving here, it understands which street I'm on. It understands the content of that street, where it can give me information. It can give me real-time data as far as like time, my cell phone connection. But at the same time, imagine it connecting to applications as I drive based on where I'm at. And so if I'm coming up to my destination, it needs to know where I'm at, what that destination is, and how I may want to interact with it. And it changes with the scene. So if you think about it, it's real time in the sense of, as I'm moving, it's giving me different content based on where I go, not a preconceived direction in where I'm going. And this means that basically the software is loading and unloading based on proximity, where it's giving the information that I need to know as I move around in these experiences. The third tenet is, and probably one of the most important, is unbounded by application boxes. And really what I mean by that is, if you think about how we design software, we design it for a single application where you're stuck in a rectangle. And that rectangle doesn't interact with other applications or other rectangles. And for the spatial internet to work, we need to have the ability for multiple applications to work seamlessly. So if you look at this picture in detail, you can really see that this is a shopping grocery store, and there's lots of different applications that are working seamlessly. You have a pet that's actually a digital pet, which really has nothing to do with the grocery store, but an application that can be ran by a third-party company that's interacting with me to keep me company while I'm shopping. And then you can look at the shopping cart, and it actually has a way in real time to let me know how much I'm buying based on what I put in my shopping cart. I may have lists, but that whole application may be, there may be hundreds of choices that I may pick based on the one that I think is best for my experience within that grocery store. And now as you move around the grocery store, you can see that it's spatially aware, where the coconuts, I know that the coconuts, I'm near there. It's letting me know that there's a cost. And funny enough, it actually tells me, it knows that I have a digital pet and I may want to upgrade my kennel because I may be into dogs. And so you can see on how it can in real time really understand who I am, interact with me. But the really neat thing is that you have many separate applications built by different people, different companies, different programmers that are all interacting within my space. And this is applicable in VR as well. I know I'm showing you a lot of AR applications, but the same thing if I'm walking in a VR space and I walk up to an NPC character, that can be ran by a third-party company and start interacting with me. While if I walk up to a chessboard, it'll know that I'm coming near that chessboard and I can instantly start playing chess built by somebody all over the world. And I can pick those applications based, which I think is best for me, or what's best by the person that actually built the actual, quote unquote, immersive website, if you will. And this is super important, that we're not formed to a box or a rectangle, but you basically have a massive scene that spatially is aware. It understands my proximity, allows me to interact with many applications versus being stuck in a single application box. So as you can see, I'm sure this is a picture that you guys have seen before. This is obviously Roblox, and we have to really think about, why is Roblox or any other immersive platform that exists today not necessarily not the spatial internet? And so while these why they're all three-dimensional, they don't conform to any of the three tenets. They aren't spatially aware of how they fit into the world around them. You must download and install each application, and they run inside an isolated application box. And these are all things that I think are extremely important in thinking about how a spatial internet needs to perform. These are also all closed ecosystems that don't conform to open protocols. And that is extremely important, because if you think about the web, you have the freedom to get a website, build what you want. People can go directly to your content and you can interact with them without a company telling you what and how you can actually perform or what you want to do within those spaces. And I think it's super important that there is a full level of interoperability to allow these applications to coexist with each other. The other thing is that none of these applications are viewable through a spatial internet browser. You're actually stuck within their ecosystem, and you don't really have the ability to move from one ecosystem to another. And so all these things are super important when thinking about what is a spatial internet and what we have today. So we want to start thinking about the metaverse browser. Current web browsers are not HTML or DOM. Current web browsers are actually HTML and DOM based, and we really need to move away from that. This will help unlock a lot of problems that we see with the current internet browsers controlling or giving our view into spatial content. Current web browsers use open protocols and standards, and content is delivered on demand. But if you think about it, many of them run many apps at once. And this is a vital thing for some type of metaverse browser to be successful. And so these are the things that will, you'll also be required what I call a spatial fabric, which is a new way of actually interacting with a metaverse browser. And these are some of the things that we'll talk about in the upcoming slides. So what are the looming effects of the spatial internet? I believe, and we've talked a lot about this, is that app stores will eventually go away. Right now, due to limits of applications and what we can deliver, we are stuck in the app store regime, if you will. And with that becomes all of the different barriers, not only for consumers, but also for developers and creators. And if you think about how content has changed over the years, everything has moved from static, in-hand kind of ways of interacting with something to on-demand content. And so if with music, we used to have DVDs and CDs, but we went eventually to obviously streamed music. If you look at the idea of Blockbuster versus Netflix, we used to go into stores and actually get movies or wait for it to come in the mail. But at some point, once the internet was more powerful and had more capabilities of streaming data, Netflix was created, and Netflix was able to give us an experience for on-demand content that we really couldn't conceive, a couple decades ago. Same thing with Microsoft Office. If you think about applications, most of them are downloaded and installed. But now we work with Google Drive, which is seamless. It's a web app that anyone can connect to and share data. And you can see the migration. And I believe that's why we're going to move eventually from app stores to real-time content that you can just access by subscribing or going to those locations. So streaming presents new graphic challenge. And this is actually a slide that we put for the SIGGRAPH community. And you guys are veterans in graphics. And I think over the years, it was always about how we get the best graphics. And it was really more about, the bigger the file sizes got, that just meant that we're waiting a couple extra seconds to download more data to install. And when you think about a metaverse browser, you have to be able to stream just the content based on your proximity. You can't download the entire immersive web. And so you're going to have to really deliver that information in a new way. And for it to be on demand, you're going to have to figure out how do you, get the graphics that we enjoy with large file sizes, but to do it with the constraint of how we actually stream data on the internet today. And so there's a lot of new kind of solutions that you can start thinking about to really start up-leveling the level of graphics when you start getting to the ability to stream and be on demand. And some of that, I'm sure you guys are familiar with, is like FPG textures, parametric descriptors of models, multi-levels of detail, and automatic common resources. And these are just a way for our company to start thinking about this problem and coming up with solutions. But I don't believe it's really for RP1 to come up with all the solutions. It's really an ask to the community to understand where we are going with the spatial internet and start rethinking the problem where before, if you had really big file sizes, it didn't matter. But now we have to rethink on how we make these file sizes extremely small. And this is super, super important. And we hope that the community will help us solve these with new inventions and solutions. Excuse me. So enter RP1. So we started and we're coming out with an open beta in June of 2024, which is coming up in about a month, which we're getting really, really excited. We have a really small team really solving, I think, a tremendous problem. And the idea is really to share a new prototype and how we think about the spatial internet and what a metaverse browser can start to look like. And so with RP1, we're designing for the 3 tenets that I described earlier. And these components that will be necessary is a new idea of what we call a spatial fabric. a new metaverse browser, or I believe the first metaverse browser of its kind, and then a true AR VR open metaversal ecosystem. We're also going to introduce open standards and protocols. This is not about just launching a platform. This is about launching standards and protocols where anyone can build a spatial fabric, a metaverse browser, and their own ecosystems that can all coexist and be interoperable with each other. And that is extremely important when we're talking about an open spatial internet. I think as of now, most people are really thinking that we're stuck in the idea of a closed walled garden system. And I think we need to come together to really rethink the problem and understand how do we get to an open ecosystem on the way websites work for the idea of a big vision of the metaverse where we can have millions of immersive applications coexisting with each other. So one of the things that we brought up as a component was the spatial fabric. And really, if you think about how a browser needs to connect to the server to render the page, a spatial browser or a metaverse browser will need to connect to a fabric. And think about the fabric as the common services needed to connect with immersive content. And some of those really think about like identity, credentials, persona, inventory, a metaversal map, which is extremely important, spatial audio, the menus and settings, app launcher, friends, messenger, and notifications. All of these things need to work in tandem with a metaverse browser. And along with us introducing a spatial fabric, the first of its kind, we want to also have an open standard that allows other companies to actually create their own fabrics. In fact, we believe the future where Roblox will recreate the Roblox experience for the open spatial internet, and they will have their own fabric that you interact with. The only difference with what we're proposing is when I'm done with Roblox, I should seamlessly be able to walk or teleport to another experience or another fabric built by other people, including RP1. And this really creates a open standard which allows everyone to participate at every level. And I really believe it's a fully extensible ecosystem that we're suggesting. And I think this is vital because it's the same ecosystem that has powered the internet and the web creation and deployment that makes it democratized for everyone to build and democratize the applications themselves and share with each other. So we're also going to introduce the first prototype of a metaverse browser. And this is, it's really to help navigate eventually millions of different applications that can coexist with each other seamlessly, where you're streaming information based on your proximity and the experience built by different people, companies, individuals from anywhere in the world. And right now we have built it using WebXR, but I do believe that this is just a stepping stone to eventually building out a full native app browser that not only gets access to the local resources of your computer or device, but also solves a lot of the security issues that are super, super important. And this is important also for enhanced memory management and faster, more detailed graphics. And so I believe as devices get more powerful and as our the browser continues to evolve, we're going to get the level of graphics that you have today in AAA gaming, things that you have to download hundreds of gigabytes worth of data eventually to actually stream based on your location. And if you really think about it, you think about it like a metaverse, or think about like Fortnite, the game. You have 3.5 square kilometers that you need to navigate. Do I really need all the details of that map, or do I just need to know the data of where I'm located on that map? And if I decide to leave Fortnite, then I go to, let's say, a school or an education built by a university, I should seamlessly be able to get the data based on where I'm at on their campus and instantly get the information needed and be able to inject services where I can seamlessly interact with different services built by different people, along with the companies that own that space, if you will, just like a domain. The other thing is really we're introducing the true like open AR, VR, open metaversal ecosystem. And a part of this is building a map system that is fully expansible. And what I mean by that, it's a true one-to-one scale of our entire universe. And included obviously in the universe is our planet Earth, a full digital twin of our entire planet Earth, where I can seamlessly meet up with anyone in the world and interact at a location based on what actually happens in real life. And we believe that in introducing this map, the people that own their real world location will automatically own their space in RP1's map system, where they can upload their own digital twin and have their AR and VR applications that they manage just like they do websites. I do believe there has to be a true open payment system along with developer tools that are not only built by RP1, but by any company. Just like you have WordPress of the internet, you can have different companies that build tools that easily attach to the RP1 ecosystem. It will also include spatial audio and 6DoF capabilities, which allows it to be accessible by any device, including VR. And we really believe this is the mapping system necessary to have a interoperable way for different applications to coexist with each other, making it a great experience for the consumer to easily navigate any location based on proximity where they want to go and seamlessly connect with any people around the world. We're also going to introduce the open standards and protocols and an open source client. This is truly important because we have a highly scalable platform that can currently support up to 100,000 concurrently connected full fidelity avatars in a shardless ecosystem. The reason we stopped at 100,000 is really just budget. We were able to do this on about 30 computers. Typically, this would take about upwards of 200 to 500 times more compute, and you would still have to shard the systems. As you know, most of the immersive platforms are stuck between 20 and 50 people. And we're trying to build from the bottom up with groundbreaking technology, the ability to scale to everyone on the planet, where we can easily connect with anyone, including long distance phone calls, connect with people all over the planet and go from different experiences and easily connect whoever with I want, including their data, so we can interact with them seamlessly. There's still many solutions that have not been implemented yet. This is truly just introducing not only a prototype, but really let other people start building based on the standards and protocols that we're introducing to the community. We'll also be introducing all of our client-side software will be fully released as open source. And I think that's super important because people need to be able to see not only what we're building, but also see how they can help solve the problems in parallel with what we're trying to create. Again, we are creating an ecosystem with standards and protocols, but it's going to take lots of people to help us solve problems along the way. So I think one of the biggest things, a lot of people think this is, decades, if not many, many decades away. And it's all due to the lack of compute. And I'm really here to say that it is possible now. We're running, again, what people thought is impossible for another couple of decades, the idea of hundreds of thousands of people connecting in a single persistent ecosystem. And we're doing that today with technology that is leap and bounds beyond anything that we know about. And I think it's important to know that the compute that is here is capable of powering an entire spatial internet. We just need the software and rethink the ideas of browsers and other technologies to make this whole ecosystem work. It's really an olive branch, if you will, for participation from everyone in the world, including large companies, individuals, creators, developers, and programmers, to really think about what that future looks like and how do we get there. And I think there's going to be a major change and a major leap that we're heading to, which I think is going to be vital. And I think as we come together, we can make this possible in the short term versus it taking a really long time for a single company to try to tackle all these problems. And it is vital that we keep the spatial internet open. If this is controlled by a single walled garden system, we understand the implications of that. And I think the same way AOL and CompuServe tried to control what the web looked like, the World Wide Web won. And I think right now we're going through that same process, if you will. And I think there's a lot of great technology companies that are really giving us a vision of what is possible. But I think we need, all of us should hope and come together to allow the spatial internet to be open as well. We would love for you guys to join the conversation. You can come to rp1.com/Discord and join our Discord with an open invite. And we're getting super excited about what's coming up in the next month. It'll be the first open demo that we're sharing with the world. And you'll have the ability to seamlessly go in world and connect with anyone on the planet and interact with some sample locations. But it's really more of a start to show what's possible and kind of how a spatial internet and metaverse can come together. I just want to thank everyone, obviously, again, for this time. I'm super excited. This is actually the first time we've ever done this presentation because of the way we're thinking about things. And I'm excited that it's with SIGGRAPH, with veterans that have been thinking about these types of problems and what the future could look like. And hopefully we get you guys excited enough to help share and help us, through the process. So thank you so much, Larry. I really appreciate the time.
Thank you, Sean. Great presentation. Both of them were great. And let's get we got Liam and Sean back on now. And I'm very pleased. I mean, I thought both presentations actually kind of dovetail into each other in a lot of the overviews, and really I was watching it from from an outsider point of view. Again, I've been poking my head into what both of you guys have been doing for years, and and as I say, I've been involved in these discussions for 30 years, and I'm stuck, stuck thinking of myself having to say Back to the Future, from a Zemeckis film, and at the same time, it's a bit of Battlestar Galactica, which is this has all happened before, it'll happen again, type thinking. But looking, I'm just gonna make an overview comment to the audience as well, is that both presentations, and then added with, in my opinion, a content presentation, okay, truly is a triad which will cement this in people's brains, especially now, I think, where we've come off of that metaverse bubble, in a sense, that came out of the VR bubble of Lucky Palmer and Meta to Facebook. And now, of course, most people have already moved on to the AI bubble, and going through the NFT bubble, where which came from, there was a merger at one point between NFTs and metaverses, and where, and people trying to use the NFT model and the coin model to drive world creation. But now, of course, we got AI becoming that interest. But and again, we'll discuss obviously with the next hour, where everybody's thoughts are on that. But you put those three things together, in a sense of, from the content creator, the studio creator, the who we call clients or customers, whatever, or just consumers. If it's what is a Roblox user? Is he a consumer? Is he a client? Is he a customer? I mean, nobody really knows anymore. A viewer, a user. But then to put the two legs together between the tools and the standards, that's why I want to put this panel together. Just quickly, for the audience to understand as well, I thought I'd make this, after 3 years of doing these, I thought this was going to be kind of the Apple Vision Pro meeting, where I basically go, bite my tongue and go talk to somebody at Apple. Said, can we get a Vision Pro to demo? Can we talk about what Apple Vision Pro is doing? Can we talk about the next generation of Meta headgear, and blah 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 blah? But we've kind of already seen where that leads us, and the term walled garden, and it is interesting that you just went back to AOL and CompuServe, and because that's literally where I came into this world with even 3D, and it just I'll tell it just quickly. It's just that. So when it brought me out to California, almost 30 years ago, 96, was a deal with AOL to put a 3D transmedia science fiction world into reality, between the AOL browser and also the World Wide Web, which was their main interest. But again, because I wasn't a well-funded big media company or a well-funded VC company, I had to use PayPal for payments. I had to integrate it with Macromedia Flash for my media engine. I had to integrate it with SGI's Cosmo browser for the engine for 3D. Integrate that with Black Sun, who was the only person who had a multi-user chat system for Web3D, for the Vermal standard. So me, myself, and I, company of three, Cube 3, had to basically negotiate with all these large huge companies, just to be able to put together, a virtual little science fiction world where people could come and buy spaceships and avatars and run around and, and do the things that everybody takes for granted now in these games, in these worlds. But it was about putting the pieces together. And it was the web. It was still the days of the web. So let me post to both of you your thoughts. I mean, are we now ready to go back to the future, finally, and convince people that Web3D, WebXR, whatever we want to call it, has to be the answer. I mean, beyond, because we've seen what mobile and the phones and app stores have really done to creative companies, to creative, content companies. And then we can talk about AI. Throw that in if you want to go there really quickly from this first question. So thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's the time. I sometimes feel like I'm chasing windmills in the last few waves, but really, the capabilities of the browser and the advancements that have been made in the ways that you can build advanced multiplayer worlds in the browser stably have really changed in the last 3-4 years. Web3D has been around for coming up on 13 years, and web GPUs coming up on 4 years. And it's really getting there. I'm going to be a point of controversy and say we don't actually have to make a new browser, that the Chromium team and the WebKit team are actually making moves finally. There's a lot of political gains with what the W3C, the group, the World Wide Web Consortium that makes the browser standards. They have a bunch of political energy where they actually define the web as a human right to the UN and all major nations, and the web browsers are treated specifically under many laws, so which is defined by the W3C. So I think like extending WebXR and Web GPU and working inside the existing browser framework where we extend what the definitions of things that a web browser has to do to be considered a web browser is really how we bring the 3D web in here now. There's been a lot of pioneering work, mainly by the Web GPU team, but also the WebXR teams that have been going to the W3C. They've been going to the Kronos group. They've been going to device makers and other working groups to make sure that the capabilities are there. If you look at what's going on with OpenXR right now, OpenXR 2, which is really taking on the ability to do world scale augmented reality in the OpenXR framework and have anchors being treated as a first class object across all frameworks, all game engines, and groups like OpenAI Cloud and VWeb Consortium and the Constellation Group. There's a lot of there's a quiet sea change going on the standards bodies.
Well, let me make a quick comment and then I'll throw it to Sean. As somebody who's been there for 30 years, I mean, actually it goes not 14, but this goes back to VRML1, VRML2, X3D. These were all standards to build the metaverse, as Mark Pesce would have said when doing a presentation like this 30 years ago at the W3 Consortium, him and Tony, when they introduced the first version, VRML1.
Yep.
But the bottom line is that you say there's no need for a browser, but then again, at the same time, the browsers are still owned by the huge corporations, Safari, Google,
Yeah.
Microsoft. I mean, I literally put up a video earlier today about somebody who's, complaining that, now with Microsoft's Windows 11, we really have almost no control of what goes onto our OS anymore on our machines. So, I mean, from a marketing point of view, or a almost a zeitgeist point of view, there was a time when we thought we didn't have to have a browser, when Netscape bought the first VRML browsers, Mike McHugh's company, and then it all got buried. It all disappeared. Literally over 3 times this has happened. So I question if standards are enough, which is another question I was going to throw out to both of you. Sean, since you're putting these, these kind of high level thoughts together about the browser, please go right ahead. I mean,
well, I mean, if we're talking about the idea of the browser, I think we can think about what is a federated metaverse versus kind of the grand vision that I think we all dream about, like the Oasis, right? A single kind of virtual ecosystem that we can all participate together. And I think right now we're thinking about, in the last couple of decades, it's always about building for the box and how we can build a single box where someone can come to my box, interact with me, but it's not, in my belief, solving the future. And I think in our vision, the metaverse browser is the next generation of the web browser. The DOM really has nothing, basically has little or nothing to do with the spatial internet. And the memory management and segmentation is entirely insufficient for a metaverse, in our opinion. And so right now we're working with things that exist today to conform to building and sharing immersive applications. But I think if we really think about some of the pictures I showed in my presentation and what the future is going to entail, you have to really throw out the current browser and rethink, how do you make it easy for consumers to connect to applications and services that all stream in real time? And I think that's super important. And for us, it's not about RP1 building the browser. We're actually looking to fund an open source version of a metaverse browser that is available to everyone in the world. This is not about controlling the browser. It's about enabling individuals to come together and actually create a browser that thinks about what does a persistent ecosystem allows us all to participate, the same way that we can go into the same standards and protocols that allow websites to coexist with each other. And if we don't do that, this is why you think a lot of the discussions about the metaverse is really, how do you build a federated metaverse to have millions of boxes and figure out identities or things that can easily move from one box to another. But that's not the seamless experience I believe that consumers, nor that I would want in interacting both in real world with AR and in virtual reality. I want the seamlessness of the real world. It's funny, someone on our team actually calls it reality 2.0. And if you want that experience, you have to basically map that out and say, okay, how do we get this experience? What technology do we have today? And how do we get there in the future? And that's why we're introducing the concept of a new browser.
Well, obviously the World Wide Web was a 2D metaphor, the hyperlink that was already attached to a 2D, interface, the graphical user interface, that again allowed us to navigate freely through the internet, through a friendlier interface through a web. Now, I mean, what became the browsers around them from Mosaic onward, then again, all became closing down. They became, different flavors to navigate the one web. And we don't yet have a one metaverse conceptually, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think we need to work towards that. I think the premise of, I did talk before, and I was like, imagine if we had 1,000 internets today, Larry. Imagine if we had 1,000 different browsers with radical different technology, 1,000 different programming languages to build and deploy websites. Nothing would be interoperable. Businesses wouldn't know which internet to build it on and have the freedom of the web. Developers wouldn't know what programming languages to learn for which internet. Consumers wouldn't even know which internet to go to. And I think that's the problem of why we're not at a metaverse right now, is that you need to make this seamless experience where someone, once they learn how to use a browser, they instantly get access to all the amazing websites that are built by individuals and controlled by individuals. And I think that whole presence needs to happen with immersive experiences so that we can have that same interactive way of connecting with anybody. Because if you really think about the metaverse, it's going to socially connect us in ways that websites can't. And that interactivity is really going to be as close to what we get in real life. And for that to happen, it has to be, in my opinion, streamed in real time. And if there are standards and protocols that allow everyone to participate, then we can all come together and actually build different content. But it has to be fully extensible in the sense that anyone could be a tool maker, anyone can build content, anyone can own land, anyone can do different things. I think that's super important. And I think it's funny how you mentioned the World Wide Web as a way of viewing the internet in 2D. This is how we define it ourselves. And I think the metaverse is really a collection of accessible and viewable resources that reside within the spatial internet as viewed through a metaverse browser. We need to be able to get into that space where we can find all the content versus trying to do it through the same web ecosystem that we currently have.
Well, I mean, Liam, if we're going to attempt to do it through the same ecosystem that we have,
Yeah, I would say I have a lot of thoughts on that. I think what what Sean wants, I totally agree with. The how we get there, I would take a different tack. I sit in the Metaverse Standards Forum and at the Kronos Group, especially around the GLTF, and there's a lot of conversations about how to build metaverse links, how to build groups and parties and avatars and wallets and inventories and durable objects and interoperable worlds. And I have thoughts on all of those things. And I'd love to see what the standards Sean's working on and RP1 are working on. My approach has always been like work within the bounds of what the standards can do, try to build polyfills that are kind of like stand-ins for beta features. Like we've been working on a passport that allows you to create a party on my website with Larry and I, and we can walk through a portal and end up on, you know, Sean or Joan's website, and we're still wearing the same avatars and continuing a conversation.
Right.
And you know, there's been a lot of work with the W3C and Meta so that immersive links work. So you can go from one hub's website to another hub's website without exiting WebXR. And that was seen as a very small but first pivotal step of actually like making immersive web portals work. There's
Right.
amazing technologies like ES Build. So the one cool thing about our existing web browsers today is they can actually dynamically load in code, execute that code, then load something out. Like they can literally pull stuff. They can pull JavaScript and TypeScript and WASM logic off many CDNs, off many domains, and run them in one browser. And you can run many browser sessions in the same time. They're called iframes. And there's ways that you can build composable apps directly in a single web browser. Now, there is limitations. Like you do have essentially a 4 GB memory limit, but there's talks right now on easily increasing that limit with new experiments in Chrome and WebKit. And, you know, there was traditionally a lot of really bad problems
Well,
with.
why is that any different than you know, having to download 6 different apps for a phone and not having storage on your phone to even get the apps loaded?
Well,
100%.
the magic of the W3C. W3C is recognized by the UN and all these countries.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get something ratified, like the WebXR extension, like full body tracking, which is coming, and face tracking coming thanks to Meta, once that actually gets ratified and about a few years go by, browsers have to implement it, or else they're no longer considered browsers. And that has a whole bunch of downstream implications that where enterprises have to conform to what a browser is, all sorts of things. Now, I'm all about building WebXR-centric browsers. I fully support Wolvik and other teams that are doing that, and they're pioneering building extensions as fast as possible and doing experimental optimizations and all of that. And if there's more of that, I agree. But I'm always coming back to, no matter what we do, either building a new browser or not, it should come back to open standards that we push through these national bodies that define the web, because that's how we get the web to really win. And I couldn't agree more with what a world scale AR web would look like, where, you know, I walk into the Chinese restaurant, it loads up the Chinese restaurant's website, and a dragon flies through, and I can select my meal right at my table, right, with the flick of my hand for, you know, Nerf scanned food or whatever it's going to be, right? I think that's all possible. And I think we're you know, I remember when WebVR didn't even do augmented reality. I remember when Niantic and Immersal didn't have world-scale VPS constellations. And, you know, it's so far we've come. And they told us it was impossible then. And look how incredible it is. I remember doing this before WebGPU. So I think our time's now. The enemy of our enemy is our friend. And Microsoft and Google hate the Apple App Store, and Microsoft hates the Google Play Store. And that means money's going to the Chrome team, and and we should support them. Google I/O is today, and Google showed off a WebXR AR experience on Angular, no less. You know, so like I think this is actually this is the time finally.
Well, that's why I brought it. That's kind of why we're here tonight. I mean, you know, you're a boxer and you've gone through 13 rounds getting your ass kicked, and then all of a sudden, well, maybe I should be a southpaw in this round. You know, maybe it's time to unleash, you know, my left hand, and Mickey's yelling at you, you know, in Rocky movie.
Yeah.
So I want to say I think the W3C is an amazing open standard body that really takes concepts and really helps make sure that throughout the world we can conform to the standards and protocols necessary to coexist. I think right now we're in a stage where we're still thinking about legacy systems and how we do things today versus planning for the future. And I think it's all great in what we're working today. I'm a big component of WebXR. I think it's super important because it's helping advance the idea of moving away from apps or the App Store and really move to the open web, which I think is a major step towards the right direction. I think what we're trying to introduce is really think about not moving from one game to another with a handful of friends, but the interactions that we're going to have with the actual world. And if you think about that, you think of airports, hospitals, oil rigs, casinos. You know, if you think about 30 years ago, all of these operated with no internet. And now you can easily say that if you were to shut off the internet, all of these organizations would completely shut down. And what we're saying is that the next evolution is that things are going to follow the three tenets that we described in this presentation, where if you follow them, they have to stream. And Larry, you actually brought up a good point where how do I download and install everywhere I go? I need to be interactive and seamless because I can't download the entire internet or the metaverse, if you will. And I need something that has to stream and work with me in real time and allow me to connect to these applications that I subscribe to and want to interact on my daily life. And I think as you start thinking about these problems, and the only reason we're trying to introduce these standards is not about saying, look at us. We've just been thinking about a problem with technology that no company on the planet has, in the sense of how do you network real-time data that's streaming. This is a very, very hard challenge. So I think a lot of people punted this vision waiting for hardware to catch up with Moore's Law. And we're here to really share with the entire community that we believe it's a software issue. We believe it's inefficient software that's not designed to work with each other and the ability to actually scale and run these applications. And if you rethink the software and you think of a single persistent ecosystem that needs to work from the ground up, you can start seeing the problems that we think about every day. And once we really crystallize this, we said, wait a minute, if we want the ability to walk into an airport and instantly interact with an application built by the city or the airport itself, and I also want to have a digital pet built by another third-party person that I can interact with, and I want to be connected to, let's say, Netflix or ESPN scores, I need to be able to subscribe to those services and interact with them without thinking of it like the old way of applications. And I think right now, most of these are all, again, pre-compiled, downloadable, and installable applications where you have massive data. It doesn't make it seamless what I believe what the future will hold for us. And I think it's getting that conversation to start, because I think we have a lot of ways that we need to head towards.
Liam, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, that's uncorking the 8-hour lecture of what is a shared simulation, right?
Well,
So
yeah.
and that's essentially what we're all building. That's what the metaverse is it's a
Well, I
shared
think,
yeah, go on. Yeah.
what I was going to say, which is interesting so far, is that we've gone, an hour almost. We've gone
On
an
one
hour
question.
so far without mentioning games.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And without immediately saying that we're an Xbox or we're a AAA game developer making the next, first person shooter. What's the best machine gun that I can make in VR? And
Yeah.
that we're finally at a state where we're looking at it again as a medium, as the web was a medium, a 2D to start medium, and not as just as a game per se. I mean, you mentioned airports and hotels and all these places being
100%.
together. They're life. They're not games. The last thing you want is to talk about games when you're getting on an airplane. And the pilot comes out with a funny hat and starts making jokes. But I think that's one of the things that maybe time's up with the last phase of, let's call it VR, XR, whatever.
May I take a stab at responding to both of those?
Yeah.
I would say, firstly, I think that we're going to have a sizzle and steak metaverse, whether it's the virtual worlds or it's the world scale augmented reality.
I agree.
And some of it's going to be functional and some of it's going to be fun. And that's where games are going to live. Like a lot of what we've been playing with is like, we have a golf island and you go to the clubhouse and there's a store, right? The sizzle is the fun thing to do. The steak is what pays the bills.
Well, and golf and things like that, those are, I mean, look, the first computers came with solitaire.
No, yeah. Here, let me get to it. So there's this island, right? And currently we limit about 12 people on the island. And that's really because in our multiplayer shared simulation, everybody has a full body with arms and hands and faces. And we have a real-time physics engine. So I can take that golf ball and hit it real hard, and it'll bounce off a bunch of complicated objects.
Right.
And that's because we have servers and clients that are essentially running the shared simulation. We also have the concert world, where we can all jump in and actually watch that Lotto and Jazzy actually do her concert.
Right.
There, we don't need a physics engine. And there, you only have to update your avatar. Your avatar could be a popsicle stick, an instanced avatar for all we care. And we could shove in thousands of people into that concert. And if we shut off voice and video, or you can only talk to peer-to-peer to the people closest around you, now we can redefine what the shared simulation is, build a different experience with against different parameters, and get somewhere else. Photon's a great company, like to know about this. They actually sell multiple concurrent versions of shared simulation tools for Unity for different use cases, for different video game types, and they all have their place. We're really focusing on a client server and peer-to-peer scheme that covers a lot of use cases, but it's not perfect, and they don't cover everything. But it's one of those things about building these shared simulation engines. There's the front-end graphics and UX usability, API, developer side.
You're
And then
talking to somebody who certainly understands that side of it.
And there's the back end shared simulation. If I push you, you push me. If I play catch, and all the voice and video, and they all are big turnable knobs, essentially for different use cases. And that's one of the things I wanted to say is it's not one size fits. I highly doubt we're going to end up with something one size fits all.
Well, my only comment is that, again, the concept of games fit under the concept of entertainment in the hierarchy of descriptive languages. All dogs bite, but all dogs aren't dogs, or whatever you want to call it. The term is entertainment, and of course, games fit under entertainment. Of course, we are dealing though with some, with industry sometimes that forgets that and thinks that games comes over entertainment. I think maybe that's something that people should be looking at with some of the problems in this so-called VR world for the last decade. But I would agree with everything you're saying. I mean, these are all about personal. This is the. I mean, when people went to a mall, it was to be entertained as much as it was to shop. That led to the whole idea of malls being built. Yes.
One of the things I wanted to say is, it's funny when you bring up games and you think of immersive experiences. Games have been around for decades, right? And they've created the prototype idea of how do we interact with each other playing a simulated game. Or you look at like Ultima Online or some of these large mass multiplayer, kind of games that we've been introduced to, and they were fun. I've made lifelong friends playing in games like that, where I can connect with people all over the planet. But I was very limited on the people in my shard, if you will, right? You're stuck in a very small instance with a certain amount of people. And when you really think about our current, why the spatial internet is so important, it's so far from games. It's really the social connection and interaction that we don't get when we're not together in real life. Right. And so how do we socially connect that's better than just being in forums or chat rooms? How can we actually interact with each other in ways that was never deemed possible?
Well, it was synchronous and asynchronous at the same time. The web.
Well, I would look at if you look at Instagram or if you look at Facebook, a lot of those are asynchronous in the sense where they share data, but it doesn't allow me to interact immersively in real time. And then and the thing is, we use what are called gaming engines, right? So just off the title of that, they're engines that were designed for games. And when you think about the idea of the metaverse, where I want to connect with anyone and either maybe jump in their living room, or we can meet in a virtual space and play chess on every Thursday night, or I seamlessly want to go to a classroom, that's at a university where I can interact with the students and the teacher. And then when I'm done there, I can seamlessly go to anywhere that I want once I'm inside that ecosystem. I believe that most people say that's what we want to head towards, right? But we're going to go back to repeating what is done on the web, where I have to now download, install, and create an account. It's like, hey, let's go meet in Roblox. Well, I've never used Roblox. Okay, and I got to go create an account. I got to create an avatar. I got to learn a new UI. I got to find where you are in your experience in Roblox. And then when I'm done with that, and now I go to a university and I'm on a second year in my MBA program, what system are they going to be on? And then I have to create a separate avatar. Could you imagine this for every single experience that I go to? And I believe that we want to.
That is the
That's
game.
that's the game. That's exactly what we're replicating, yeah.
Every time Dungeons and Dragons switches publishers, you're rolling up new characters and creating new skins and having to make all new friends on new servers. But that's been the model of that kind of industry for 30 years. And it was also the model that that this immersive medium took to heart. And I mean, I think we're sitting here now, and again, can this? That was not the metaverse. It was just it was a place of lots of games, and and can what we're talking about now get past that and make a metaverse where you can learn in immersive worlds, get a college degree as easily as you could on Khan's website, as play Angry Birds or some other game, right?
I think open standards solves that problem, Larry. And I think we just need to define those open standards on how we can get the best vision of what we can all agree on. And I think for us, if the W3C could come in and take our standards and make it implemented worldwide, there'd be nothing happier for us. It's not for RP1 to bring to the world. I think we need to think about the problem together and come up with what are those standards that enable the grand vision. What does the spatial require? And that's where we actually crystallize with the 3 tenets. And I think if it doesn't follow the 3 tenets, I think we're working backwards. I think we're using today's technology to try to form fit it to what the future can be versus rethinking the problem and saying, what technologies do we need to get there? And I think it's a leap that I think the community will make. I think it'll just take its time. And I think we have to introduce the technologies to really demonstrate the differences. And I think once you remove the box, where everyone is moving from box to box, I think once you can be in a shared ecosystem, I think it will benefit everyone the same way that we have a shared ecosystem for the web. I mean, we're not redefining what's needed. We can show what is done with websites. I mean, the websites is a perfect example of a shared ecosystem with standards and protocols that allow us to all coexist with each other. And I think that needs to conform to a spatial internet in the same way.
Right. Well, the web, the web was a Cambrian explosion. There are Cambrian explosions that have happened a number of times with personal computers around CD-ROMs and then the web. And then, of course, what's occurred is that we've kind of collapsed, down to app stores, in a sense, the gatekeepers, the 3 companies, 4 companies. And again, there does seem to be an explosion happening at those companies. And again, I will also just toss out the thought that it's not just the companies, it's the content companies too. It's studios. I mean, not just Silicon Valley doesn't know what to do next, but neither does Hollywood for the first time. And
So true.
And they've kind of they my joke goes is, they both learned each other's worst practices over the last 25 years. So that the content, beyond games, just entertainment, right? Hollywood is entertainment. That's what LA was about. Also doesn't know where quite to go. I mean, I think that's why it went to NFTs and to coins very quickly. And it was funny, I could just say firsthand that I remember, hearing, well, that's not the metaverse. That we don't want 3D, we just want the worlds and the coins. And it didn't, and it was, like a three-legged stool, a 2-legged stool. It couldn't stand on its own. But so we're in terms of what you're working on, I mean, it's interesting also that timelines have been beginning to converge, right? I mean, both of you recently have, moved to a different step, a new step in terms of partners and companies, and so it's I'm assuming there are others out there who also maybe have made this move. So I mean, again, right place at the right time maybe is I guess part of what you guys are saying. And so how do you help push that along? I mean, Web3, these are technical groups, Web3D Consortium and others. Maybe there's other things that one can think about too. Because again, SIGGRAPH is both technical and creative. The audience,
I think through our internal projects and through the work we're doing with our partners. And please reach out to me if you'd like to become one of them. We have lots of things going on, people building on the engine.
Right. Your links will put up in the
Yeah.
chats, right? That's
Yeah.
Fran will take care of that. Yeah.
We're doing these pilot worlds to show it's possible, and our plan is to grow them into persistence, like well curated and managed and grown spaces, and really build these persistent community hubs at people's websites. We're going to make a lot of announcements around AI and templates and kits and all sorts of things over the summer that I cannot spoil. But we're going to have some presence at AWE and SIGGRAPH and Web Summit, and where we'll be making a series of really fun announcements. We have an open source core where we have a lot of open source Web3D tools that we collaborate with the community on, a Discord forum, and you'll see us out on the standards bodies. Really, the plan is to release white papers and these kind of test bed projects to go back to the standards bodies and say, here's not just a theoretical standard, but this is something we actually implemented. And it could be a GLTF extension, it could be a WebXR extension, it could be a USD extension, or like our volumetric capture, we're pushing that. Our lotting and instancing system and portal system and avatar standards, we're all working with, like VRM. And say we didn't just make this standard, this interoperable asset in an ivory tower. We actually put it out into the world, and this is what worked and this is what didn't work. And that's what I hope to see a lot more of. It sounds like Sean's doing that work as well, and that's awesome. That's the way we should be building the metaverse together. And it's going to take a lot of hard work and a long time and a lot of compromises. We're trying to adopt other people's work right now, so people will adopt ours, and so there's a lot of things going on in the
How
space.
do you guys think AI is going to factor in?
Oh my God. Yeah. Long story short, LLMs and diffusion have a lot of power in 3D worlds, not just like text to 3D, but it can be used in a lot of ways. And that's all I'll say about that. It's very cool. More to share soon. But we're not the only
about
one.
the technical for a moment, but I mean, I think but also from the economic and the political, since AI again is being immediately what used to take years for people to catch on to seems to take months now when it comes to tech biz or tech culture,
Yeah. I would say I would have many thoughts, but I'm not sure which ones I can share. But
okay.
It's very exciting on what we can do, and there's many possibilities. Yeah. Sean, would you like to share?
No, I'll just say with AI, I look at it as an absolute amazing tool, right? And I think right now, if you look at the amount of programmers versus the amount of creators that live on this planet, we want to empower every TikTok user, every YouTube maker to be able to create content for the metaverse. And that's going to require a new set of tools that it's going to make it seamless to build content and display it both spatially and interact in different mediums. And I think that's a super important. And AI really is a way to make tools seamless for different people to be able to build content and deploy it that maybe not have the skill sets without those types of tools. And I think it's definitely going to be an exciting phase, I think, for the future of building content, especially immersive content or spatial content. As far as the outlook for kind of where we're at as a company or RP1, I think we, again, there's two focuses. I think one is really focusing more on forget about what RP1 is creating and more about the vision of what we believe the spatial net is. And I think to do that, you have to share, and I think just like Liam brought up, the idea of a white paper. A white paper really can explain the details of not just RP1's technology, but more about what we think the spatial net will look like, what it's going to take to get us to a grand vision, and what are all the different components. And we have, I think, well over a 60 or 70 page white paper that we're going to share with the community to really start the conversation of what's needed and why. And I think we're hopeful to share not only with, we have a lot of large companies that we're working with, but also all the open source bodies that think about these things or need to be, see maybe a new direction or what we think is possible today, where a lot of people are not thinking about this problem for another couple of decades. And so we're going to share that white paper probably the next month, right before AWE. And at AWE, which is January 19th, if I remember, I think it starts. We're going to be doing we're going to be doing an open demo with a brand new website and a way to get into our prototype of a metaverse browser and really show how that works. And I think we can explain it in any white paper. We can explain it, in talks like this. But I think you have to feel it. You have to interact it. You have to go in, and you'll know how that solves some of the problems that I think we're all thinking about. And it's going to take time. And for us, it's sharing our thoughts and the different technologies. We also have a long list of technologies that we're going to be introducing, I think, that solve the interoperability problem, the problem of how do you have applications coexisting with each other. Everything from solving the API REST call, because you're going to need real-time services in a metaverse. And our white paper will depict why these are important and how any company can actually participate. If I want to build something inside of let's say RP1 and I need an NPC company, any NPC company can deliver a service that a developer can subscribe to and instantly have a service running in their experience. And it will know based on proximity if I walk up to that NPC and interact with me, no different if it was in a single box. But now we're talking about an open box that everyone can participate in. And I think you have to rethink what that view looks like versus kind of how we're segmenting the idea of the federated metaverse. And I think once we get to that, I think people will be super excited. And so we are going to have an open demo. The white paper will share on all of our socials. And I think we're hoping to start a conversation that will never stop. And I don't think we have the answers to everything, but I think we can depict kind of what that future could look like and all the problems of app stores and the different ways of deploying content. And I think that's going to be super, super important for everyone to communicate and participate with.
So struck out with AI in a sense, but what about again the coin issue, the money issue? That again was had its own bubble and died, but of course excited and opened up a lot of people's ideas to being able to make a 3D model of a chair and sell it and make money. And not have it just taken away from them, or used just to make one company a bankroll.
So I've thought of I've had a lot of long discussions over the last 4 years about blockchain and crypto tokens, NFTs, land sales and land scarcity, and I've dabbled in all of them. And really, like how we've evolved at IR is we're pretty agnostic to all of that. There might be a scarce land like Decentraland that takes off, but presently there's a lot of problems with land scarcity and building even a single AR world scale index, just like there is no one single internet index. And the same thing with like NFTs. I think there is a need for a durable digital good, digital asset. NFTs don't really have DRM. They don't have, they're very fractured. I think they're kind of a middle ground of something.
DRM, that's an amazing term to use in a positive way.
Well, when you're a creator, it's pretty nice.
You're talking, I just
if you talk to a creator, they're like, I kind of like this DRM thing.
Well, some of us have liked it for 30 years. Some of us have gotten into fistfights over guys like Cory Doctorow on Twitter for 20 years, talking about digital, why is it a bad thing that I can actually own and make money on my own work? Tell me why, Cory. Well, sharing's caring.
But the other, I would say, I think we're very agnostic to tokens and payment. Presently, we're very Stripe focused and actually letting letting the website holders put in their own Stripe accounts, because that's what most of them want. They want to directly connect with direct payments, which is we're trying to disintermediate. So all of the having tried to explore the merits of all those approaches, I think we're stepping way back on all of that, thinking it's either too early or too problematic or technically infeasible for many reasons. So, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
no, I look, I started with Cybercoin wallets from Microsoft, and eventually it's been PayPal for 25 years, because it worked. It was hooked up to my bank and I could get paid real cash. So, but again, these are all things that were thrown into the mix around the term metaverse
So
for the past
yeah, so
8 years.
So Larry, I think tokens are important, and I think there's a little bit of baggage with the entire token and crypto industry. And I think Liam used a great word, scarcity. And I think it was really a get rich quick, build something that's scarce, drive up, pricing. And some people make a lot of money, and most people lose a lot of money because they weren't in the know. And I think that the idea of a metaverse will require digital currency to make it seamless. And I don't think it should be something built on scarcity where you have massive fluctuation in tokens where you can't build an economy. And for us, RP1, we think about it as an open metaverse with open payments. And I think it really shouldn't be any individual or any one person to decide which cryptocurrency or which payments that you want to take. I think there should be an open platform that allows anyone to bring in what payments they want and interact. I do believe that there are challenges with blockchain when you talk about real-time payments in virtual worlds. Again, we're not talking about websites. We're talking about actually walking in virtual worlds and being able to take payments seamlessly. If I want to hand somebody something like a hat and they want to hand me 10 units of whatever that token is, there should be a seamless transaction that are
Well,
not
it has
focused
to
on.
be, or it's not the metaverse. I mean,
It's exactly
why
right.
is it spatial unless I can do, what I do in a mall? I mean, I walk
Yep.
over, a guy gives me the hat, and I give him my credit card, or I give him a $10 bill, and I now walk out with the hat, and I don't get arrested. I
No,
mean,
you're spot on there, and I think that the biggest importance, and I think why you bring up tokenomics or cryptocurrencies, is really how do you protect the content creator? And for us, we look at the content creator; they own all of their data and they own all their assets, and it's not conformed to a platform. When Altspace shut down, a lot of people lost their assets, they lost everything
they
they
all
built
did.
because it was all conformed to a platform. It wasn't on an open source or an open standard
Well,
that allow
actually,
you to have.
if you were someone like me, you only brought your open standard models that were 25 years old into Altspace because they were already in an open 3D format standard, X3D or something else,
Yep.
so that when Altspace died, when Hubs is going to die after this week, I still have this campus behind me for 30 years to do an event in. So
Yep.
you're
But
right,
I think
open standards.
But if you look at why walled garden systems do what they do, is because it's really, really expensive to run real-time applications. It's not inexpensive. It's the most expensive application that you can run, especially when you get a certain amount of scale. And once you get a certain amount of users to come to your location, you're going to have to raise a lot of capital to handle the influx of users that come in the space and manage that and network that, which I think is extremely an important thing that a lot of people are talking about. That's why a lot of people conform to big platforms, because they build those technologies, they take all of the money that they have, build the platforms and all the servers, and then say, hey, you can have a piece of this, but by the way, I'm going to own your data, I'm going to own your assets, and I'm going to take 30 to 80% of your revenue to participate in my closed sandbox. And
But
that's
that's
why the open standards are extremely important, because when you have open standards, you have the ability to people to build their own quote unquote website,
well,
own
you
their data in
normally
this, and
have choice, but if there's no
yeah.
place else to go, there's no.
Well, that
I mean, I've had choice. I've had stuff to go for decades, but I only have a limited amount of choice as every wave hits and somebody builds a platform that's looking for somebody else to come in and share with the economic justice of it, other than just own it all, right?
Well, but that's why open standards is, and Larry, you brought it up earlier, open standards is vital, because let's say RP1 goes away. If open standards exist and RP1 is built on those open standards where everyone else can participate, if RP1 dies, the creator still lives, the individuals still live. And I think that's the whole purpose of an open internet, quote unquote internet. And I think the same thing that needs to apply to an open spatial internet. And right now we're conforming to systems that force you into an ecosystem because there are lack of choices. And I think that's why it's super important that we're trying to really push the dialogue around open standards about how a social internet needs to come together, and then say, listen, I know we have a lot of work ahead of us, but that's why we do these talks, is to invite the community, because I believe we all would agree that we want to be protected as a creator. And if there's one person in this equation that's been screwed over and over and over again, are the creators. And you know, it's one of these things that I do it because I have no other choice, Larry. But if I had a better option, wouldn't I go in that direction? And we were spoiled with the web ecosystem because that was the better option.
Well, that's that's why we're sitting here now at, can that better system save the idea of the metaverse?
100%.
Because after a decade of trying not a better system, it's eaten itself alive to basically give you Roblox, Horizons, and Fortnite, and what else am I missing? But that's not a metaverse. That's a couple of games owned by a couple of companies.
Yep.
So what about open source? That's an interesting conversation, because open standards and open source are not the same thing. And how do you see open source functioning now? I mean, because both of you are in that area as well, and talking about it, and others would close down the conversation, others would want to open it up again. So in terms of this, web VR, web XR, web, future, how do you see the flavor of open source now, winning hearts and minds, I guess, or not?
Sure. Yeah, we open source all of our engine core and a lot of our tooling and examples and everything and all of the test data and content we use for standards. Really so that creators on top of our engine can get started locally for free, which is the way that the game engines work, and be developing right there. And they can get into the guts of how everything from the networking to the renderer works, mod it if they have to, and really understand it deeply so that they can optimize against what's happening and what's changing from version to version. We have a lot of proprietary over-the-top technology that you get with your subscription. You don't just get service and support and access to content, but you also get access to some of our scaling and monitoring and AI tools and things, and content creation tools. And really, we've found a good balance with what to remain open and closed. It's especially useful when we go to browser makers and go to them and say, hey, X, Y, and Z is not working the way we expected or as fast as we'd like. These are the changes. These are the tests that we're running, and allows us to iterate very quickly with browser makers and really flex the browser in ways that nobody's ever done before.
Interesting.
We're really proud of that. But yeah, that's an ongoing conversation. We really moved from the MIT license to CPAL, the Common Public Attribution License, which essentially means that it's a way of that people have to give our open project public attribution if they use it in a significant way. And I've really studied open source for a long time. I've built a lot of open projects, mainly on the MIT license. I've really started to embrace this idea of common public attribution as a way to really highlight open contributions to proprietary projects, and really just respect all the people we're built upon, because every company is built on open source code. And that's another thing that I think we want to do as an organization is we're an open code collective to help our community members, and we want to contribute to other code collectives that we rely on and be very public about it. And I think that's along with saying we're standards members, but we're also open code collective members. That all really goes a long way. So I'll leave it there.
Yep, Sean, quick.
I mean, I think we've mentioned it a couple of times in some of the questions. I think open standards is vital. I mean, if we're going to have an open spatial internet, I think the open standards are vital so that anyone can participate at any level through the ecosystem. And I think for us, I think that's a first principle, and that's why we're actually building a white paper that discusses all of the open standards that we're suggesting for the vision that we have. And the vision, I think, that is shared by many people that we speak with, not only at large companies, but individuals within the space for a really long time.
So let me, we're getting to close to 8:45, and we'll open up for Q&A in a minute or two. So let me just ask both of you really quickly. So where do you think the metaverse is going to be in 5 years? Where do you hope it's going to be? Where do you think you'll be within it, and what are your thoughts? Just quick.
Really quickly, I would say those actual augmented reality glasses that look like normal glasses are going to start showing up, and they're going to start showing up as part of your phone plan. So you're going to go in to upgrade your phone, and they're going to offer you some glasses for free with a 12-month plan.
Versus $6,500, yeah.
Yeah, and it's going to be much more affordable. I think the X-Real Ultras are probably the first. The apps that run on it and the operating systems, that's Jump Ball, Horizon OS, and Android XR, and all sorts of things are happening.
Yeah.
I think WebXR could be a first-class player on these next-gen devices and OS if we're very smart. So that's why I get up in the morning.
Sean?
Yeah, I think in the next 5 years, I think the metaverse will be the dominant development paradigm. I think people are going to rethink how you build and deploy content to interact with. And it's funny, we were sitting at a friend's house, and he has a pool, and he has landscaping lights and all these different things. And you really think about, well, how would I interact with those things? How would I interact going to an airport or a casino or all these things remotely? And I really think in 5 years, companies are going to really spend the time to understand this new paradigm and start building applications that allow for this type of experience to be seamless. And it's funny, I try to think about and I know we talked about this before doing the talk, like a 5, 10, 20 year. And I think the 10 year is really going to be where things will not be able to operate without the spatial internet. And if you think about, like, if you were to shut down the internet today, these airports and all these different things that we described earlier would not exist. They would fail to work right now without the internet. And I believe in 10 years, there's going to be so much spatial content that is built that without the spatial internet, those things will not survive. And you're going to have to go back to manual, right? And I think in 20 years, I believe that kids will not discern the difference between the metaverse in real life. They'll grow up with the idea of the metaverse and interacting with applications that are quite seamless. It'll make us feel really old.
Universe, one place.
But that's exactly right.
All right, so I tell you what, let's see what we can do for some quick Q&A, and and begin to wrap this puppy up. So I see a couple of questions here. Well, one of them is, would Google Maps be a good use of spatial internet?
Yes, yeah. I think there's a couple amazing apps already for phone and headset for that. Reach out if you want to know. But I think what's going to happen next is there will be a next version of a spatial Google Maps, where on probably many spatial registries, they're called VP for visual positioning systems, there'll be links to websites. So going back to that example, your headset will be tuned to one or many spatial indexes. You'll walk into a spatial volume at some latitude and longitude, like a Mexican restaurant or a Chinese restaurant. That address, that location will be tied to a URL that will just load automatically depending on your headset settings. And those indexes have been designed for many years, and Niantic is probably going to be the first to market with a consumer solution like that. But there's been others. So it's navigation in the future is going to intersect with probably the entry point for these spatial web experiences.
It'll be interesting to see how Niantic goes to a consumer product facing company from a most famously game company, for lack of an entertainment company in a sense, even though they were always a shoot off of Google and Google Maps and other things. But
and their outdoor headset is due to come out this summer, which
so
I'm teasing. So
again,
we'll-
it's you're right. It's an interesting, you know, again, I just, you know, I'll shoot off my mouth and just say the marketing of all of this stuff is so imperative to a medium. And you know, I just think that, you know, we've been just hitting the wrong target so many times over the last decade with so many of these devices. And history shows us what works for, you know, everything from headphones to televisions to radios to pocket radios, the Walkman. And we just don't seem to learn anything in tech. Uh, is the foundation of the browser built on Chromium? This was another question, I guess, to everyone or to both.
I think that's John's browser. Yeah, I would say.
Right.
I mean, we talked about it earlier. You know, as mentioned before, no, right? I don't think the way current browsers are built are designed for the metaverse.
Right.
And I think we're doing our best to make it the best possible to work today with current technologies. But we need something that's not DOM based. And I think it's a rethink of how you deliver immersive content that coexists with each other. It's a completely different language from HTML. And I think you have to rethink how we deliver this content to solve problems. I think we're doing a great job in using the construct today to deliver this type of content with the current browser. But I think that there's so far to go as far as creating. I think it needs to be scratched. I think we need to, you know, we're eventually going to be using iframes in our metaverse browser, but they're not sufficient. And I think we see the problems of these pieces, and we want to share some of those solutions. But more importantly, we hope that people recognize the same problems and start designing a new browser. So the answer to that question really is I don't believe it's a metaverse browser. I believe there will be a new construct.
I'll throw a monkey wrench to the speakers and to the audience, just based on the fact that the last 48 hours has been nothing but people talking to cute, giggly voices of floating dots across the screen. In other words, the AI chat buddy voice as interface, you know, the world of her.
Yeah,
So,
they're coming to date you. Yeah.
What is a spatial universe if basically you're just carrying around a person in your pocket who has all the answers for you?
Well, we got to embody those virtual beings, or at least that's what, you know, the prevailing wisdom and experiments are,
Right.
and to make them more humanoid. There's good reasons to do it, and there's many ways it can go wrong. At IR, we are deeply looking into this for many use cases, and we have many virtual beings. I had a conversation with several of them today that are in development, you know, I'll just say this: content is king, right? And AI is very good at making content, there's so that's a lot of where I think we're going is there's a convergence where the AI is going to be the apps and the XR is going to be the medium.
Well, I would say that, you know, again, I'm known for saying interface is everything, and
Yes.
NFT became the interface, metaverse became interface, you know, and today AI is interface.
Yeah.
And in the way that most people look at the world, there can only be, you know, there can only be one, as one ring, one. And I just will suggest that finding a way that the AI as interface and spatial as interface merge or can be sold together quickly is, I think, going to be the biggest problem of the next 5 years.
Yeah, but I think there was a day that we did math without a calculator, right? And then a calculator came and made our lives better. I wouldn't say it would make it worse. And
I'm
I
not
look
sure
at
I'm not sure it made life better.
it made it easier. Maybe made it easier.
You know,
Well, I'm sure you don't want to do long division with large numbers. You know, you'd be around for a little while, but I do believe.
But I want a culture that understands how to do what long division is and can do it in a sense. And we've pulled ourselves into a conundrum where our tools or our AI buddy is going to just give us the answer 42, and we're going to have to take it on faith that that's the answer to the universe and everything. So, I'm looking for some other questions here. We really.
Well, while you're looking at it, I just wanted to answer the AI for thing. I believe there's going to be $1 billion company built around AI pets and companionship, and I believe
Right.
that is going to be extremely important. And you should have the ability to have someone that you can interact with that can solve the loneliness
Check out
of this planet.
Hoppy
And I
Wakes
think
Up, the
that
children's book I wrote in 2001 about Avabuddies.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. It's going to happen. The only challenge is, you know, again, going back to like an open standard or open spatial internet is where do I build that service? You know, if I'm an individual and I want to inject that service while I get to take my pet in between different applications, how does that work? I mean, the one thing we're not thinking about is if we have to walk through what the problems we're trying to solve. And if we can agree on the problems, then I think the community can come up with the solutions. I think right now, with a lot of the different forms that exist today around the metaverse, I don't think anyone's agreed on a definition of what that future looks like. And I think without it being a noun and without it actually having all the specifics that are necessary, I think we're going in 10 different directions, hoping that somebody solves the problem. And I think AI is going to be a way for people to build applications that could interact and work, but you still have a lot of solutions to make that interoperable with different applications. Because what's good of a digital pet if I can't bring it around with me like I do in real world? If I want to walk to a coffee shop or go to the market with my pet, if you're telling me I can't do that in the metaverse, is that really a metaverse, right?
I'll send you a copy of Hoppy Wakes Up. The narrative of Hoppy Wakes Up was basically the Avabuddy, the robot wallaby that had been the girl's iPhone, for lack of a better term, growing up, somehow reaches consciousness and awakes to find itself on a garbage scow to the sun, and then goes on a voyage looking for its owner, who's now 19 years old when the robot discovers her, and she's surprised to see it because, you know, in her mind, the robot's looking for her, and it's like yesterday was last Tuesday, and she's like, no, I upgraded you 12 years ago to like an iPhone 12, iPhone 15, and you were upgraded, and you were meant to only be, interstitial in my life, an element of me. And he goes, but wait a minute, what about me? I'm here now. So it just goes to show again it was a fable for children to kind of treat their machines by not just kicking them around at the same time. But now where you literally have they exist. I mean, they're not just Furbies anymore. I mean, now with the what we're seeing with ChatGPT, they're it's Scarlett Johansson.
We look at companies like Replica AI, which I'm highly critical of, that they're very, very quickly can become mind parasites. And that things like maybe from a moral standards basis, these things should have like a little diamond above them or something that denotes that, and some sort of boundaries of distance. But that's the most interesting conversation in the world right now, is that one. And then we can spend another time on that. But
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll do it again. Well, maybe we'll do an AI conversation one of our next meetings. I see Jones coming on to throw us off, but I think that's I think where we are with the metaverse is metaverse and AI collision course, and I think if we can get people to get metaverse to equal web first before it all starts fighting, I think we'll all be in a very happy place, at least this panel. Joan?
Yes, sir. Well, I thought, wait for it, yes.
I hear the applause.
Is that real clapping or is that AI, Joan? I want to make sure that we're...
No, we're all clapping for you for sure. I just wanted I wanted to thank you. You guys were awesome. Sean and Liam, and thank you all for joining. Sean and Liam.
We go to Hubs.
And we'll see you in the metaverse. You can see chat for the info. Or June 22nd, we have heck of an art gallery exhibition going on with 25 digital artists who are exhibiting their artworks at the Barrett Gallery in Santa Monica. September 17th, we do have that multimedia performance thing going on, Art on the Plaza. It'll be interesting. Anyway, we are Los Angeles ACM SIGGRAPH chapter.